I never thought I'd live to see the day when my own son would treat me like a burden. I'm 70 now and my body has grown old, but my heart still remembers everything. I raised him with love, with every bit of strength I had in me. I didn't complain when he cried all night as a baby, when he made mistakes in school, or when he lost his first job. I stood by him like a rock, always. I gave up my own dreams so he could chase his. I used to believe that if a mother gives her all, her child would give back even just a little love in return. I was wrong. My husband passed away 10 years ago. We had a peaceful life. We didn't have much money, but we had enough, and we had each other. Together we built this house brick by brick with the little savings we had. Every corner of it held memories. His laughter in the living room, our morning tea on the porch, the prayer room he painted himself. After he died, I held on to this house like it was the last piece of him left in the world. When my son got married, I was truly happy for him. I welcomed his wife into our home with an open heart. I never expected her to love me like a mother, but I did hope she would at least respect me. At first she did. She acted kind, spoke softly, and brought me tea in the evenings. But slowly things began to change. The tea stopped coming. The soft words turned into silence. And eventually, silence turned into cold stares. Then one evening, as I sat folding laundry, I heard them talking in the next room. They thought I was asleep. My daughter-in-law said she didn't want to live with an old woman. She said this house should belong to them now that I had lived long enough. I sat there frozen, the shirt in my hand slipping to the floor. My son didn't defend me. In fact, he agreed with her. He said he would figure something out. That moment broke something in me. I couldn't understand how the boy I had held in my arms was now planning how to throw me out of my own home. After that night, I tried to act like I hadn't heard anything, but deep inside I knew things were changing. My son started treating me like I was invisible. He still said good morning, and brought me my medicine, but it felt forced, like he was just ticking off a list. The warmth in his voice was gone. We used to sit together in the evenings and talk about small things. The weather, his work, the news. Now he barely stayed in the same room as me. He said he was busy. Always busy. But I knew better. He was avoiding me. Soon I noticed more changes. My opinion no longer mattered. If I suggested something about the house or dinner, he would nod without listening. Once I asked if we could fix the leaking pipe in the kitchen, and he said, "Don't worry about it, Mom," and then walked away like I wasn't even there. I felt like a guest in my own home. Then came the biggest blow. His wife's parents moved in. I didn't expect to be the only elder in the house, but I thought they would at least tell me first. One morning I came out of my room and saw them unloading their bags. My son simply said, "They're going to stay with us for a while," and walked away. No discussion. No explanation. Just like that, my quiet little world was now crowded with strangers. They never spoke to me. They would smile at each other, sit in the living room and watch loud television, but I was always left out. I would eat alone in the kitchen while they laughed at jokes I couldn't hear or understand. I began to feel like a shadow in my own house. Then one Sunday morning my son came to me and said he had arranged a visit to a care home nearby. He said it was just for a day, maybe two, so I could see how nice it was. He told me it had a garden, books, and even other people my age to talk to. He made it sound like a little vacation. I didn't want to go, but the way he kept insisting made me feel guilty. So I agreed, thinking I would be back in 2 days. He drove me there himself. The place looked decent from the outside. Clean, quiet, not too far from our home. I held his hand and asked him if he would come back to get me soon. He smiled and said, "Of course, Mom. Just rest for a bit. You'll love it here." Then he hugged me lightly and walked away. I stood at the entrance watching his car disappear down the road. That was the last time I saw him in person. The staff showed me to a room, gave me a plain meal, and told me this was my new home. I kept saying it was just a visit, that my son would pick me up soon. But days passed, then weeks. No one came. No one called. I finally asked the receptionist to call my son, and she looked at me with pity in her eyes and said, "Ma'am, he signed permanent residence papers." My heart sank. I sat on the edge of the bed that night and cried quietly, holding the old scarf my husband had once gifted me. I felt abandoned, thrown away, like I didn't matter anymore. All I could think was, after everything I did for him, why would he leave me here like this? The days at the nursing home felt longer than any I had ever lived. The walls were painted in soft colors, but they couldn't hide the sadness that filled the place. Every morning I woke up to the sound of nurses shouting down the hallway. They weren't cruel, just tired and impatient. I understood, they had many patients to look after. But there was no warmth in their voices, no real kindness. Everything was done in a hurry. Medicine, meals, even bathroom visits followed a strict routine. If you missed your turn, you had to wait, no matter how badly you needed something. At first, I thought maybe my son would come visit. A week passed. Then another. I kept glancing at the front doors every afternoon, hoping to see him walk in with that same sheepish smile he had when he was a boy. But he never came. Not a call. Not a letter. Nothing. I told myself maybe he was busy. Maybe he thought I was happier here. But deep down I knew the truth. He had simply shut the door on me. The other residents had their own stories. Some had visitors every weekend. Their grandchildren would come running through the halls with balloons and chocolates. Others, like me, sat by the window and waited for people who never arrived. I met a woman named Joyce who whispered to herself all day, repeating the names of children who had stopped visiting her years ago. There was Mr. Allen, who screamed every night for his wife, even though she had passed away. It broke my heart to see how many of us had been forgotten. Mealtimes were the hardest. We sat in silence, spoons scraping against plastic plates, while the television played old game shows no one watched. The food was bland, always the same mashed potatoes or dry chicken. I used to cook beautiful meals at home, spiced lentils, fresh bread, sweet rice with raisins. Now I struggled to eat a few bites and forced a smile if someone looked my way. I spent hours sitting by the window in my room staring at the trees outside. The wind would blow gently and I would imagine I was sitting on the porch of my old house, my husband beside me, my son playing in the yard. But the moment I blinked, the gray room came back into view and the emptiness returned. I started questioning everything. Did all those years of love, care, and sacrifice mean nothing? Was motherhood only valued when we are strong and useful? I had given up everything, my youth, my energy, my dreams, so my son could have a better life. And now here I was, left behind like an old coat no longer needed. I didn't know what hurt more, the loneliness or the realization that I had been forgotten by the one person I loved the most. One afternoon, as I sat by the window watching leaves fall to the ground, something strange happened. I was thinking about my husband as I often did, when a memory from years ago suddenly came back, clear and sharp like a voice whispering directly into my ear. He had once given me a folder wrapped in an old cloth. I still remembered his serious face when he handed it to me. "Keep this safe," he said. "It's important. Just in case anything ever happens to me." At the time I didn't ask many questions. I trusted him completely. I took that folder and placed it deep inside my bedroom locker, behind some old saris and family pictures. After he passed, I never looked at it again. Life moved on slowly and painfully, and eventually I forgot all about it. But now, sitting in that cold nursing home room, I clung to that memory like a rope in a storm. I felt a sudden rush of energy, something I hadn't felt in months. That folder, could it still be there? If my son hadn't touched my locker, maybe it was still hidden, just waiting for me. I couldn't go back to the house myself, but I knew someone who might help. My husband's old friend, Mr. Kapoor, had been our family lawyer. He was a kind man, always respectful, always loyal. I hadn't spoken to him in years, but I remembered his number. With trembling hands, I asked the staff for a phone, pretending I needed to call an old friend. They gave me a few minutes and I dialed the number, holding my breath. He picked up on the second ring. At first he didn't recognize my voice, but once I said my name he grew quiet. "It's been a long time," he said softly. I told him everything. About the house, the nursing home, the way I had been left behind. I also told him about the folder. He didn't waste time. "If the deed is still in your name, we have a strong case," he said. "Let me check. Don't tell anyone what you're doing. I'll handle the rest." For the first time in months I felt something I had almost forgotten. Hope. Small, silent, but real. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to take back what was mine. When Mr. Kapoor called me back a few days later, I sat on the edge of my bed, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. His voice was calm, but there was excitement beneath it. "I checked the documents. The house is still in your name. Your husband never changed it. Legally, your son has no right to it." I couldn't speak for a moment. My chest felt heavy, like something long buried had suddenly shifted. After all the pain, the silence, and the betrayal, I still had something. A piece of my life that was truly mine. My home. "I want to take it back," I finally said. "I want him to know he can't just throw me away." Mr. Kapoor didn't hesitate. You can give me power of attorney. I'll handle everything on your behalf. Quietly. Your son won't know anything until the papers are delivered. We agreed to meet at the nursing home and he came 2 days later, looking older but still sharp and professional. He brought the documents. I signed them with a steady hand. It felt like signing a promise to myself, that I would no longer let anyone treat me like I didn't matter. He smiled gently and said, "You've taken the first step. Now let me do the rest." He moved quickly, filing everything through the right channels. He didn't contact my son, didn't alert anyone. That was part of the plan, to make sure everything was legally sound before the blow landed. I wasn't just taking back the house. I was showing them that I was still alive, still thinking, still fighting. Back at the nursing home, I continued playing the role they had assigned me. I acted tired, fragile, quiet. The nurses didn't notice anything different. Even Joyce, who now sat beside me during mealtimes, had no idea that something big was happening behind the scenes. Every day I stared out the window, but this time I wasn't just lost in memories. I was watching the world with a different kind of silence. One that held secrets. I thought a lot about my son during those days. I remembered his childhood, how he used to hold my hand tightly when crossing the road, how he cried the first time he scraped his knee. I had loved him with my whole heart. Maybe that's what made his betrayal cut so deep. He didn't just leave me behind, he erased me from his life. And for what? To please his wife. To make space for her parents? I imagined him sitting in the living room of the house he thought was his, planning dinners, paying bills, walking past the bedroom where I once kept that folder hidden. I wondered if he even felt guilty. Did he ever think about me? Did he assume I had accepted my fate, that I was just another old woman waiting to die? Let him think that. Let him believe I was done. Because while he slept peacefully in my house, I was taking it back, inch by inch, paper by paper. I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I was quiet, yes. But quiet can be powerful. Quiet can shake walls. And mine were already starting to tremble. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when it happened. I was sitting in the lounge of the nursing home, pretending to read a newspaper, though my hands trembled too much to focus on the words. I didn't have to wait long. Mr. Kapoor called, his voice calm but firm. The notice has been delivered. They have 7 days to vacate. Everything is in order. I didn't smile. Not yet. But something in me exhaled for the first time in months. My son and his wife had no idea what was coming. They had gone on living in that house like nothing had happened, like I had never mattered. But the house still carried my name, and now the law was speaking for me. Mr. Kapoor had ensured every single detail was airtight. The deed, the signatures, the timeline, the history, it was all backed by legal facts. My son's name was nowhere on the property documents. Not even as a co-owner. And the eviction notice made it clear. The current occupants were to vacate within 7 days or face legal consequences. When he read it, I imagine his face must have gone pale. His wife, the one who never once called to check on me, must have screamed in disbelief. They tried to contact Mr. Kapoor. Tried to delay, argue, even threaten. But none of it worked. Everything was sealed, registered, and supported by law. My son didn't know where to turn. The house he thought he had claimed quietly was now slipping from his hands, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Somehow the story got out. Maybe a neighbor saw the police at the house, maybe a court clerk shared the news. Either way, the local media picked it up quickly. Elderly mother wins back her home after being dumped in a nursing facility by her only son. The headline made its way into the papers and television within 2 days. A small channel even ran a segment about me, showing a blurred photo of my house with the caption, "Justice for a Forgotten Mother." The reaction was louder than I expected. People in our community were shocked. Neighbors who once smiled at my son and his wife began avoiding them. Their grocery store owner stopped greeting them. Even the temple committee removed them from a guest list. Suddenly, the mask they wore so easily began to crack. And under it, everyone saw the truth. One morning, a nurse came into my room with a strange look on her face. "Someone's here for you," she said. When I went out to the hallway, I saw Mr. Kapoor standing there, along with a kind-faced police officer. "It's time," he said. "You're going home." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded and picked up the small bag I had packed a week earlier. It had only a few clothes, a photo of my husband, and the little knitting I had done while waiting for this moment. The police escorted me out. Some of the staff looked surprised. A few residents whispered to each other. I walked past them slowly, each step steady and firm. As we reached the gate, I looked up at the gray sky. The rain had stopped and the clouds were beginning to clear. It felt symbolic, like the heaviness I'd been carrying was finally lifting. When we reached my house, a small crowd had gathered outside. Some neighbors stood silently. A few clapped. A local reporter tried to approach me, but the officer gently kept her back. I didn't need interviews. I didn't need headlines. I had already won. The front door opened and for a second I saw my son standing inside, red-faced and silent. His wife was behind him, looking furious and humiliated. But they couldn't stop what was happening. The officer handed them the final papers. "You have 10 minutes to collect your belongings," he said. "After that you will be escorted out." I didn't say a word to them. I just stepped inside. The familiar scent of my home, the scent of my memories, welcomed me. I walked to the living room and placed my bag on the old armchair, the same one I used to knit in while watching my son play on the floor. I was back. Not just in my house but in my power. And I wasn't going anywhere again. As I walked through the door of my home once more, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. The walls I had built, the memories I had nurtured, and the love I had poured into every corner of this house were all here. It had been a long time since I'd felt this kind of peace, but as my feet touched the familiar wooden floor, something deep inside me knew this was where I was meant to be. My hands, though older and more frail than I remembered, still moved with purpose. I walked through the living room, past the photographs on the walls. My husband smiling in each one, my son in his childhood. I had almost forgotten what it felt like to be truly at home, to be where I belonged. There was a warmth in the air now, a sense of belonging that no amount of betrayal could take from me. The neighbors, those I had known for years, came by one to welcome me back. I saw faces I hadn't seen in months. Some of them had never left me even when my son had. Their eyes were full of sympathy, but more than that, they held a quiet respect. They hadn't forgotten me. They had seen the injustice even when I had been silenced. One by one they brought me little gifts, flowers, homemade food, even old books that they thought I'd like. They didn't know how much it meant to me to be surrounded by kindness after everything that had happened. I wasn't alone anymore. In the weeks that followed, I began to redesign the house. One room in particular became my sanctuary. I turned it into a small library filled with old books and memories of my late husband. He had always loved reading. His books were scattered throughout the house when he was alive. But now they would be organized, every book carefully placed on the shelves, just as he would have liked it. The room smelled of old paper, but to me it smelled like love. Every time I sat in that room, I felt as if my husband was still with me, guiding me, giving me the strength I needed. I didn't trust blindly anymore. I couldn't. Life had shown me too many painful truths for that. But I had learned something important during this journey. Trust had to be earned, not given away freely. And this time the trust one gave was only to myself. When I look in the mirror now, I don't see the woman who had been abandoned and forgotten. I see a woman who fought back. Who reclaimed her life, her dignity, and her home. I may be older, but I'm stronger. I'm wiser. I've learned the value of standing up for myself, of not letting anyone define my worth. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory. My home, my peace is not just a place. It's a feeling, a strength that no one can take from me again. I am enough. Always was. And in the quiet moments when the house is still, I finally have the peace I deserve.